Hi, this is Chris Klein with the iPerspective team. In this demonstration, we're going to show you how we created the Google visualization that is currently on our homepage. That visualization is just a chart that we created in a Google spreadsheet, and we got the data into that Google spreadsheet via a web service that we created with iPerspective. That data is live and it's coming from our database. We're actually looking at our database right now. It's our utilization information database. I've pulled back, I've basically introspected the database, and we're looking at some tables and views that are available to us. These tables and views were created based on some tables and views that we currently have in one of our production systems. These are actually real views that we use to track employee utilization and utilization by practice. Like I said, we just copied those over and took like a sample set and moved it up into a database that we currently are hosting. To get started, if we're looking over here on the right, we've got some packages. I've already created a package named utilization information, and I've already drug over some tables and views into that package, which we were then able to generate web services from. And those services are currently being used in our spreadsheet that I'll show you in a second, and then also being used on our web page, which I'll also go over. But for now, like I said, I just drug these tables and views over into this package and just did some minor configurations. And really what that was just configuring the web service in terms of protocol and message type. Google Spreadsheets have a specific function called import XML, and that works really well with a RESTful service that is an XML message type. And just to show you, these services are live. You can always just view them in a browser by clicking on the link and putting in and calling upon different resources such as all, and this just gives us all our data. That's not really that useful in a browser, but now what we're doing is taking a look at our employee utilization spreadsheet. And as I stated in my blog, I'm definitely a spreadsheet guy. It's easier for me to get some data into a spreadsheet. It's nice having it live and knowing that it's coming from a database. And then once you can get it in a spreadsheet, there's a lot of great things you can do with it. So I just wanted to walk you through the process of how we kind of use this web service to create some pretty unique charts. Remember, this is just example data, so some of the utilization percentages and years and months, for instance, we have a lot of data that's going into 2011 into months that we haven't reached yet, but that was just because it's some sample data. But to get started, I pulled in just our utilization detail view, and we just kind of used a select all here, and so you'll recognize this URL right here. That's just the URL of the web service that I just had put in the browser, and then a little simple XPath here that just gets you down into the actual data itself. And that's using that import XML, and once you do that, it populates the entire spreadsheet for you here. So Google is populating this spreadsheet based on that web service, and you'll notice that there's a lot of data here. So right off the bat, I kind of knew that this was going to be pretty tough to work with. But it's here, the views. It's now in the workbook, and it can be used in various worksheets. Did the same thing here by practice. This was that other view. If we come over here, you'll recognize the columns in the table. And so I brought that into the spreadsheet the same way. We're going after all the data. You'll recognize this URL again. That's the one we generate. Well, it comes with the service we generate, and a little XPath query just to get us all the data we need into this spreadsheet. So the next thing we needed to do was kind of whittle this down a little bit. So created a great thing that we have in our services is the ability to add where clauses as a resource. And so what we've got here is we're just saying where practice name equals managed services, and this is for the utilization by practice. And I'll show you what that visualization looks like eventually. It's a gauge that is also on our homepage. And so we brought that in and sort of narrowed down that view a little bit. Another thing I tried was to narrow down that very large data set from our individual employee details. And so again, I tried to do this one by practice where we were just looking at employees, and actually in this case consultants, by practice, and in this case, again, it's managed services. But that was still a pretty large data set there. And so I came back and tried to also, this is the gauge that you'll see on our homepage. But here, what I did is I narrowed this down to managed services, and also where the actual employee is an employee as opposed to a consultant, because we just wanted to get it down to employees for this particular demonstration. So that worked out really well. It was really easy to create this gauge based on this particular view, but we were still running into problems with creating what we wanted to use was a motion chart for the actual individual employees. And looking back on this data set, even as we sort of got it down to, let's see, employees by practice, and this was the managed services practice, there was still a lot of information in here. And what we ultimately needed to do was get it into some dates and a percentage, which was the percentage was based on period hours and then hours worked at various projects by the different employees and consultants. So I went back to the team, and we have some great database experts that were able to very easily create a new view for us. And so we had this view created and went ahead and dropped it into the package and generated a service around that particular view, and then loaded it into our spreadsheet, and that's what we're looking at right here. This is a new view that's much much easier to handle. It's got actually our utilization percentages available to us. And so again, that made it real easy to now use in a Google spreadsheet. So the final piece was just taking information from this view and bringing it over into a new spreadsheet. And we just used a couple things. One is, let me see, where we are just querying from the other spreadsheet just to pull in this data into a new spreadsheet where we can kind of massage it a little bit more, and doing some order by clauses here. And so we got that information here. We had it pretty much in the format we needed for the Google Motion chart. We just needed to massage it a little bit more, and so over here I just copied column A to column F, and then the motion chart itself actually needs a date. So I used the Google function here that's available. Let me see if I can grab it. There we go. And that's just taking a period, basically a year and a month, and I just put in a day and converting it to an actual date, which makes it great. And then I just copied over the utilization percentage column from D, and then created this motion chart, which we're going to look at here. Take a second to pull up. But once the chart's ready, it's really easy to go ahead and publish a chart. Yes, that's fine. We've already done that. And then once you get this script, you can go ahead and enter this into any website. And so looking at our home page right now, we're looking at that same graph, if you remember right, the gauge, and also that motion chart. And this motion chart's really great. You can do a lot of really unique things with it. You can pick out a specific employee, and you can track their time, their utilization percentage over time. This chart leaves a little trail here, which is great. You can even zoom in on this guy and get a little better look. And if you look over here to the left and right, you can actually see the dates and their percentage by that time. And there's some other ways to take a look at it, including line charts and whatnot. And again, you can follow individual people and see what their utilization looks like over specific time periods. And then down below here, we've just got a gauge that's just a basic utilization percentage, an aggregate of all the employee utilization percentages for a specific practice. But it's great. It was easy to use. Once you get into a spreadsheet, there's a lot of great things you can do with it. And then Google makes it really easy to get this stuff into websites. So again, we started from our database. We connected it to it with iPerspective, drugged some tables and views over, and generated some web services around them, and then pulled those services into our Google spreadsheet. and started to kind of massage the data and get it how we needed to create these visualizations. So I hope that was helpful, and we look forward to our next demonstration. Thank you.